This is the first, this is the first presentation I've given to a room of actual people since pre-COVID. So I'm going to try and remember how this goes. All right. See if this works. I can still handle a clicker. Hello. Thank you so much for sitting here, for listening. My name is Natasha Jakubowski, and I am really grateful to have the chance to be in this great venue to talk to all of you people. You know, it's been a dream to get away from my everyday and listen to all of you interesting, entrepreneurial, inspiring people. So thank you. I am actually not a brand founder. I don't work on a brand. I'm actually Chief Innovation Officer of a company called Anomaly. I'll explain what that is in a second, because I'm very conscious that Natasha, Chief Innovation Officer at Anomaly, sounds pretty vague. So we'll get into that. But Anomaly is basically a marketing company. We try and defy definition, which makes it hard to explain to a room of people like you guys what we do. But we basically help huge brands from companies like P&G and Unilever and Diageo, Google, Amazon, but also startups and entrepreneurs and small brands to basically market, create new brands, create new designs, new products, new experiences. So Anomaly started around 18 years ago in New York, but we now have 7 offices around the world. Really, it was a reaction to the crazy world of marketing, and it purposefully tried to become a different way of doing things. Not an advertising agency, not a design agency, but something that basically started with this business challenge and then figured out the right thing to do. Just out of, you know, I've actually been at Anomaly for pretty much the whole time, almost 18 years, not to date me. We've always pushed ourselves to try and keep current, to keep innovating, and luckily we've kind of had some success. So we've been recognized as Fast Company's most innovative company list for a couple of years. We were recently Adweek's Agency of the Year, and we've had products on Fortune's most innovative products. So super good. And the reason is that it helps us attract the best talent, which is all important, and it helps us get amazing clients. It helps us get really interesting, big, you know, hairy, audacious questions and challenges. So, you know, we are quite unusual. We've done everything from, you know, reimagine Nordstrom Rewards to become the Nordy Club, so that it's more of a kind of becoming a member or creating a membership experience that's less transactional. We've helped Procter & Gamble create new products with existing technologies, look for M&A, and look for white spaces to create new brands. And because we start with a business challenge, we do a ton of stuff, from the stuff that I do, innovation, like creating the Disney Magic Band, creating new brands. We've got 6 or 7 brands in test for Unilever at the moment, including this one, Melee, which I'll talk about later. We do digital transformation. If you've ever seen the puppies in the Super Bowl from Budweiser, we did those. And then everything in between. So social media, we have a TikTok studio. We understand everything from discourse to Be Real, and we even have won Emmys for long-form content that we often do for clients. So Bud Light, this won a ton of awards. It's a documentary on female DJs. We also did Food Interrupted for Panera and things like that. Okay, so I think one of the things that is why I was so interested to come is because, as well as working for clients, one of the things that kind of sets us apart is the fact that we create our own IP. We often put skin in the game, and if we, you know, meet an interesting founder or someone with an idea, we'll often literally do work for free and take revenue or options, or, you know, we'll work out something entrepreneurial. So examples of this are amazingly, we've got to work with Craig Jakubowski, who you heard talk earlier. We've worked with Eric Repair, who's a 4-star Michelin chef, owner of Le Bernardin, to create his brand, Avec Eric, which created, I think it's on its 5th series of a cooking show. It's on Netflix. We've also done partnerships and built business and revenue with people like wine.com. And then everything, in between. We've had failures, and then we've had interesting ones like Obi, which is the one with the spinning circles, which is a reproductive healthcare brand and tracker. So extremely diverse, from food to skincare to reproductive health. So I think one of the reasons that I was asked to kind of talk is because of this kind of myriad of kind of experience. And I think one of the things that's interesting, thinking about the big companies and the small companies, is that everyone is realizing this is an interesting time to be in business. To quote Dickens, it's about the most erudite thing I'm going to do on this presentation. At Anomaly, we do think, it's the best of times, it was the worst of times, and with any challenge, there is opportunity. And so hopefully we'll go through not just some of the challenges, but actually some of the ways that you can kind of navigate around this crazy world that we live in. So this was Times Square roughly when I moved to the States 20 years ago. Just insane, thinking about a complete change, Kodak, Virgin Megastore, TDK, all these brands gone. And this is, a different world with a different set of media, a different marketing environment, a different business environment. And this is before, something like COVID would have sounded a bit like science fiction. And marketers today really are, we set up in an evolving media landscape. Facebook was just starting, and now today, we have people coming to us and saying, not just what's your TikTok strategy, but how are we going to get through Discord? I mean, it's just a whole different world. And I think, interestingly, one of our clients is Amazon, and things are just going to get harder with privacy coming down the line and the loss of cookies, and Web3 creating a whole new kind of universe of choices and decisions and opportunities. And then I think, this has been touched upon by quite a lot of people: inflation, supply chain, potential recession. We do a ton of work with Albertsons and even Amazon, actually. And, inflation is real, and it's changing behavior just like COVID did. So how do you stand out? Well, we think that actually it doesn't necessarily take budget, it just takes thinking about it. I think it was Sandro on one of the panels earlier that said, creativity can be boosted and helped by a little bit of constrictions. It can help to have challenges and things get in your way. So we often think that actually some of our most creative and surprising ideas come from times when you don't have budget, when things are hard. So I'm going to go through 5 principles. A lot of this day has been around, using technology for retail, really thinking about how you connect. There's been a ton of really practical, amazing insight. Velocity is king. And I'm not going to talk about any of that. I get to, as a non-business owner, actually potentially think about how do you do just, I'm going to poke you to think a little bit more inspirationally, a little bit more, what could I do? There's all the graft, there's all the stuff that you need to do. Now what can I do to accelerate that? What can we do once you've got your business fundamentals under control, hopefully? How else can we add value and really, use creative thinking and different ways to think about branding as a kind of force multiplier? So my first principle is stand for something to stand out. I think you'll all agree there are just too many products and brands out there. I mean, again, if I think about when I first came to America, I worked on my first client, Evian, at that point, water was just being marketed to America. And, fast forward today, I've worked on Voss, Dasani, Aquafina, I've worked on so many brands. You've got thousands of brands, and it's not just water. Beverages are crazy. And I know there are a lot of beverage people here. So really, having a thought actually helps. And I think Craig has shown this amazingly. Method, people against dirty, hello, thinking about why would you put something toxic and unfriendly and downright scary into your mouth. All of these brands have in common a core idea that helps them, do something different. Not just say that they're different, but look different, communicate differently from what their products are to how they talk, to their ingredient list that Craig said, within the ingredient list was yum. So one example of this is one of Anomalies. So we created our own, partly just because it was the Wild West, but our own cannabis brand, probably 5 or 6 years ago, when it was just starting in California. And basically, we looked at the category and thought, it is the Wild West. You've got people getting high, you've got colors, you've got a whole lot of entrepreneurs, but not much trust. So how do we create something that actually takes a stand and thinks about cannabis as actually less about getting high, but really a tool for health and wellness, standing up against big pharma potentially more than it is about getting high. And so we created Dosist, a bit like Hello. The name actually communicates quite a lot. So it talks about trust. It talks about the fact that with most vapes and gummies and everything else that you can now get in this interesting space, getting a dose of something or a particular, reliable effect was quite hard. So Dosist, we will give you a trustworthy dose of cannabis. And then the design was more medicinal. It was pared back. It was trustworthy. It was expert. We did clinicals, we did research, and the industrial design, a bit like on EOS, where it had that haptic kind of really can't stop fiddling with it. This had a functional haptic response, where when you inhaled, it told you when you got a dose. So again, a core idea that can infiltrate everything that you do. Another one, this is an example, we don't own it, but super proud of it. We created it for Unilever. They came to us and basically said, we're underpenetrated among people of color. How do we create something that actually talks to them? And again, especially when you're working with big brands, like a lot of the brands that I've heard about today and know, you have real souls. Make use of them. When you work with a Unilever, as much as they have soul, obviously, it's different. They don't have founders. They don't have a core idea that they can really use and market and show authenticity with. So this was an interesting challenge. But we created a white space for them, which was around the fact that whereas skin of color was often ignored, it was almost like skincare was kind of colorblind in a bad way. For once. So we created a brand and an idea and briefed their R&D to start really thinking about what is the science of melanin-rich skin. And as a strategist, that was my proposition. So that was my strategy. So that's one reason why I'm particularly proud of this, because it's now the brand line. We named it, we created the products, and we, again, follow the ideas through. Take your founding story and think about all the places you can put it. We worked with dermatologists, we created training programs for estheticians, really start thinking about where that idea takes you. This is not one of ours. I wish, I thought it's fun. I can just pick things I wish I'd thought of. So Billy, interesting, there's so many races out there. And I think what was interesting about them is they leaned into a cultural trend of how women think about femininity, about hair removal, and the kind of discussions. And they kind of co-opted the discussion around pink tax and things like that to further differentiate themselves. Another one that I love, I wish this was around when I had when I was breastfeeding and had children that needed formula. But Bobby, if you haven't heard of them, they're great, they're clean, they're organic. But I think one of the things that kind of really put them into the limelight was really just taking advantage of the fact that the formula crisis and brands like Enfamil were suddenly the exact opposite of what this category should be about. So with no money, I mean, they literally had, you know, photocopied pieces of paper with, you know, their phone number, with coupons, with examples of how you could reach them to get formula if you're in need. So again, this doesn't cost a lot of money. It's about having a belief, following through and finding ways to bring your purpose to life in a way that's impactful. Second one, principle 2, activate your community. When we work with brands, especially big ones with ridiculous budgets, actually, one of the things that they tend to forget is it's all very well having a massive media spend, but if you really want to amplify, then understanding people, understanding users, understanding who you want to connect with and how to engage them is often done in a much better way than paid advertising. So this is an example, I don't know, it's a pretty small recent brand. It's called Vacation Sun Care. It claims to be, you know, a leisure-enhancing sunscreen. It literally looks like a throwback to the 80s. We've worked with them because they're entrepreneurial and they're crazy and they do these interesting experiments. And, you know, one of the things that they did as a tiny startup was create their own consumer base, their own community. They launched Pulse Suite FM, which is an internet radio station. It basically delivered a whole bunch of people that would not usually be that bothered about a sunscreen and started building community for them. And then they've used technology and community building ways to kind of bring people into their brands. So for example, if you go onto their website, you can become part of their company. You can give your email and they'll send you back a business card. So you become part of the Vacation Inc. I think the example here is coconut shrimp breading broker. I think I was pool boy, sunscreen masser, but just interesting and free. So, you know, I think thinking about ways, and, you know, unlike something like Melee or Billy, this is sun care. Like creating community around sun care, I think is a little harder than some other things. Converse, we've worked with them for years, but one of the most successful campaigns we ever had was actually based on understanding what made us truly different. So, you know, we cultivated a community by reflecting back what was important to them, what people did with their Chuck Taylors. So the campaign was made by you, and it was small, and we asked people basically to create, we gave people a template in social. We asked people to start submitting pictures of their own Chucks, and then it just snowballed. We had millions of pictures sent by consumers. And again, it really wasn't a paid, it wasn't a paid campaign, especially to begin with. Actually, what we did was just photograph a few influencers, and they posted, and then that, you know, as they say, went viral. This also is not, it's not one of our examples. We've worked with Lego, and I'm always like, you know, very inspired by their brand. But this is something that I don't know if you've seen recently. They've started coming out with all these crazy new adult-focused products. And what they realized, some smart client on their side basically realized that there were tons of Reddit boards and basically Lego user chat forums with people who were over the age of 13 talking about Lego and their passions. So how can you tap into passions? So they took this community that was already there and brought it in and started creating, adult architecture or floral arrangements, creating products to tap into this community that was already there. So how can you don't always need to build it like vacations. Sometimes you can kind of happen in on it and make use of it. Third one, lean into frame. This one is all about, especially when you don't have money. Like, if you don't have money, instead of trying to say, hey, look at me over here, why don't you move into a spot where people are looking generally? So this is all about leaning into culture, leaning into conversations, leaning into the spotlight. This is honestly, some of these ideas, this is one that we did. It took us about 2 weeks. The client basically was like, we're worried about Halloween. Chocolate it's an important time for chocolate clients around Halloween. So we came up with this idea, and I think we literally bought an old vending machine. We plopped it in a very high traffic area on Halloween basically in Washington Square Park. We had an anomaly person inside and someone videoing it. And basically, it was the Reese's candy converter. And it was such a simple idea, but it's leaning into Halloween and it's leaning into the insight that there is so much candy out there that sucks. So come to the Reese's Halloween candy converter, put in your rubbish candy, and we'll give you the good stuff. And again, we were getting PR mentions in Dubai and places that you couldn't get Reese's, but just a really simple, cheap way of leaning into a moment. This was one I saw a couple of weeks ago, and apparently there's been outrage. I saw an article, this was covered in the Daily Mail yesterday. I thought it's ridiculous that people are getting so upset about it. But it's a bit like the Patagonia and REI saying we won't sell on Black Friday. It's basically Equinox, Fancy Gym saying we will not take your money. Doesn't matter what your New Year's resolution is, we will not take your money on January 1st. And to be clear, it was only January 1st. So if it was us, I would have said go a bit longer. But, just a simple idea that gets picked up, a simple idea that leans into the fact that everyone's talking about resolutions, getting fit, etc. This one, again, I wish we'd done it. I've been playing with ChatGPT for naming and just playing, I'm a strategist. I'm like, how good could ChatGPT be for brand pyramids? Anyway, while I was playing around with my brand pyramids, Ryan Reynolds actually just lent into the whole chatter around ChatGPT and released this a couple of days ago.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds, owner of Mint Mobile. We're always looking for ways to save you money. So this year, we're kicking things off with an ad that I created using ChatGPT, the AI technology. This is what I asked it to write. I said, write a commercial for Mint Mobile in the voice of Ryan Reynolds. Use a joke, a curse word, and let people know that Mint's holiday promo is still going, even after the big wireless companies have ended theirs. This is what it wrote. Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here. Eerie. First of all, let me just say Mint Mobile is the shit. But here's the thing. All the big wireless companies out there are ending their holiday promos, but not Mint Mobile. We're keeping the party going because we're just that damn good. Give Mint Mobile a try. And hey, as an added bonus, if you sign up now, you'll get to hear my voice every time you call customer service. Just kidding, that's not really a thing. And stay classy, everyone. That is mildly terrifying, but compelling.
I wonder if my company should be mildly terrified, because it was okay. I probably could have done that, but anyway, just a fun example. Again, maybe it's because he's Ryan Reynolds. I I will take that as a criticism of this example. But, just a smart, good way of leaning into chatter. Here's another crazy one that just took off. So Panera, it's a client. We handle a lot of their social. Again, I think what's amazing is that if you really just keep delving into data about your people, you can find stuff that just hits a nerve, starts conversations. This is one where we basically took two data things that we started seeing in social, nothing to do with us, just people organically talking about Panera. Number one was that it's a really social, fast casual restaurant experience. So Panera, really social, people like going there with people. Second data point was people love the Panera bread bowl. And so we just kind of put these two things together and mocked up a double bread bowl, which just went bonkers. And again, it just leans into fun. It leaned into the fact that people were just kind of talking about the special. I think it was on, I think there was a special on bread bowls. And it basically led to Panera offering a two double bread bowl on their menu for a while because it just created so much PR. So silly. Okay. Number 4, everything is media. And again, Craig talked about this wonderfully with the examples of Yum. Everything you do should communicate, from the ingredients list to, obviously at shelf in your packaging, and just think about all the ways that you have, that you control actually, to make an impression that goes way beyond paid media. So this is an example that Anomaly worked on, which is all about partnerships. And I think, the eBoost guy mentioned, I think a partnership that was super important. And I think a lot of brands, especially kind of startups, often find brands that they can work with and get mutual benefit from. This was an example where we started working on the development of a new domestic Virgin airline for America. We did name it Virgin America. But anyway, Virgin America, we worked on it for a few years before it launched, partly because it took so long to get certified by the FAA and regulations, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things we did was basically, if we're building an airline for the creator class, we just made sure that everything communicated. So the map on your back of seat was by Google versus unbranded. We had Method soap, which I think is how we met Craig Jakubowski. We did a deal with Burton so that Burton made the luggage, Burton Skateboards made the luggage for the staff. We had Dwell, amazingly, Dwell magazine, I don't even know if they're in business now, but Dwell magazine created all the lounges and then featured them, obviously, in their magazine. Jonathan Adler did all the kind of upholstery and pillows. So these were ways, before you even kind of, really experience it, that say we are a brand for the creative class. And I think every brand can do partnerships that do something to boost each of you, hopefully. Shared values, shared mindset, hopefully 1 + 1 = 3. The amazing thing about this example is that marketing was the only business division that was making money at launch because we've done so many of these partnerships. Another example that we're super proud of, which I cannot lie was not easy, and actually took a couple of briefs from the client where they said, make us an ad for Women's History Month. And we were like, well, it's all very well to say Johnny Walker is for women when it's, it's an old Scottish whiskey. So we created Jane Walker, which was a limited edition. And just, it said more, a behavior said more than a print ad could ever have done. And again, it lent into Women's History Month and gave something that people could talk about, and became so popular it sold out, and now I think they do it pretty much every year, and started a whole different kind of line of limited editions. So again, we've done similar with Diet Coke and taken off the labels, literally for a run of like, I don't know, tiny run, just to get PR. Like, how do you use your products to make a statement? Can you launch something that is almost, you know, hand labeled to start making a statement? I'm going to put EOS here, again, as a homage to Craig and all of the amazing work he did. It takes balls to have something quite so disruptive as this. You know, lip balm or chapstick was always dead. It was straight, it was clear, it didn't smell of anything, it was gunky and Vaseline-y. And so it took balls to think we're going to use design to differentiate, as he said, delight, to build in something that you didn't need. It clicks. You just can't stop kind of, you know, playing with it. And then the scents and then the ingredients all kind of built up to make it craveable. And that's what design can do if you use it in the best way. So we're super proud of this design that we worked with him on. This is one that I just noticed in the last couple of days. It's not real. You know, that's the world we live in. Digital media, lifestyle magazines. Nike basically was trying to go for, you know, young people, tastemakers, people into design, people into architecture, you know, cool people that are at least 20, 30 years younger than me. And they did it with some impossible retail, which basically means these are just pictures of imaginary retail spaces that probably some 20-year-old has done in like 5 minutes in an art program. But again, this is the sort of thing, if you understand what your people, consumers, users are interested in, there's ways to do things like this that tap into their passions. Last one in this principle, super hard to explain. I'm going to play a video. But the background is Budweiser, very American beer, obviously. We worked with them in Canada, and their whole business was built around basically being the sponsor of the Canadian Hockey League, and they lost it. They lost it, they're distraught, and they were like, how can we still, you know, connect with Canadians without hockey? And we said, okay, well, how about we create a product that gets you into the space without any form of sponsorship or media anywhere near the Hockey League. So this was the red light. I will tell you that this was real. They were sold, we created it. It's a Wi-Fi enabled red light, which mimics basically when your team scores, it goes off with loud noise, lights, you know, crazy idea. They sold, I think, for $200 Canadian dollars plus, like, I think it was about $75 installation. We sold so many of this that the president of my company was super annoyed that we didn't ask for a rev share.
Talk to me, Canada. Do you love goal scoring as much as I do? Do you want to celebrate goals in your own home with hockey's most iconic symbol for goal scoring and great times? I'm Ron Kovacs, operator of Budweiser Red Lights. We're a dedicated service that could come to your home and install a working goal light that will go off every time your favorite city scores a goal. I've been crazy about the red goal light my entire life. Budweiser recognized that passion and turned my hobby into a full-blown business. The way you and the guys experience the game will never be the same. I've installed these red lights all over this town, in garages, kitchens, and rec rooms. Grab your little computer and log on now. These are real goal lights, and we are ready to install them today. So let's fire up this puppy.
Drinking age.
So yes, anyway, fun, and again, if only we'd taken a rev share. This is the last one. Thankfully, I'm just about on time. I cut out a lot. Okay, all of you know about retail. I know a bit about retail. I've worked on tons of retailers, but I'm going to leave the hardcore retail insights to Trax and you guys. I definitely wrote down a lot. I think my section is more inspirational, let's say. It's the end of a long, hardcore day. And these are some thoughts and observations about potential ways to think above and beyond all the good fundamentals that you've been talking about today. So the first one is an old one, but it's one that we didn't come up with this, but we have definitely used this on many clients, most recently with Rimowa, the very expensive suitcases. But so it's an example from Glossier. They've done it for ages. If you haven't seen this before, which I'm assuming most people have, this is actually a branded page of one of their ambassadors. Their ambassadors are just users. So this is one user, and she's basically picked out, she's put her photo into a template on the Glossier website that she has a link to. She puts in her favorite products, which is, you know, at the time, they didn't have that many products. So it's basically all their products. And she gave the link to friends and family. And, you know, it's a kind of cool, interesting way of doing almost like an MLM, multi-level marketing. But so she basically sends out to her friends. She gets a kickback if anyone uses her page to order products. Like, simple. And still something I'm super impressed with, and something that we've talked to a lot of our clients about. How do you start thinking about member get member in ways as direct as this, or other ways to really start building sales and encouraging your users to actually do some selling for you, even if it's not, you know, that she wasn't literally paid. She literally got percentages. I don't think at the start they even gave percentages. I think they just got a couple of free products and a sweatshirt kind of thing. So just, you know, interesting. This one I saw the other day. In case you aren't a big fan of Kim Kardashian, this is her new skincare brand. And I think what's interesting is this is a massive billboard that I could get a high-res image for, but I've seen it on wild postings around New York too. So see the posting, no real product information, but the QR code basically takes you through to checkout. So it's like just a, you know, it could be a massive billboard, it could be a fly posting. It's just another way to start thinking about how do you just create, you know, create new retail options. The metaverse. We have a chief metaverse, or I think he's Web3 officer now. And, you know, it's insane, everything that's happened, even in the last year. And whereas we don't have a ton of clients doing real business in the metaverse yet, I think for lifestyle, it's been interesting to really start seeing how brands are starting to, you know, almost create digital products, whether they're selling them cheaply or giving them away and creating loyalty, whether they're using, you know, Ally Bank, we created something in Animal Crossing to start recruiting people and selling the benefits of the bank and the checking. So there are really interesting new ways to start delving into this world, especially if you're targeting young people, especially if you're in a more kind of lifestyle space for the time being. And this is my last example. And again, one, I feel like I'm always saying I'm proud of stuff, but this is something I'm proud of, not necessarily for the retail, because I didn't do that, but Lone River Ranch Water is a ready-to-drink ranch water cocktail. Ranch water, if there's anyone here from Texas, is a pretty classic, you know, as Katie Brown, the founder of Lone River, explained, it's like all she drank growing up. So she basically worked for Anomaly, and we do a Shark Tank equivalent, and she submitted an idea out of the 50 or so that I got a few years ago, and she wanted to create a ranch water. We did the name, the packaging, the kind of strategy, and gave her some space to start her startup, in our offices. And amazingly, she did something where she borrowed from a few best practices that we'd had with big clients like Illy, and she hand-picked distribution. So to some of the panelists earlier, she didn't go too fast. Big is not necessarily good straight away. Do better first. Get it right, test and learn. She started in West Texas. She hand-picked places that would basically create people who are fans, have other basically doors asking for the product. So she created a kind of an interesting distribution that kind of built fans and had actual hotels and kind of lifestyle accounts trying to get hold of the product. And it's been super successful. And again, another reason why I was like, another one of the, damn, should have got rev share. She sold to Diageo last year and actually engaged Anomaly to be her first do her first proper national advertising campaign. So amazing. And that's it. So hopefully a little bit of inspiration, creativity, 5 ways that we kind of think about as we work with clients, both big and small, to almost hack growth and think about how to build their brands in ways that aren't necessarily, doesn't necessarily cost more, just takes a little bit more thinking. So hopefully that's a little bit of inspiration. I want to say, leave some time for any questions and say thank you so much. And if there's anyone that wants to chat, just, you got my email. I didn't give you my, I have too many calls from children and babysitters. Craig's like, he's their older. I'm going to give you my email. Thank you.